And welcome to the Fandom Show, the podcast where we learn about fantastic fandoms by talking to our favorites about their favorites. I'm Kaya Green.
And I'm Stephanie Malik.
And today we are talking about the king of the monsters himself, Godzilla. Ooh, I'm so excited. Is that your Godzilla impression?
I don't know what he sounds like.
No, I liked it personally.
Thank you.
I thought it was good. I thought it was resonant.
Oh, thank you so much for seeing me.
I do.
My attempt.
I see you rising out of the ocean, you know? Just
me and my thick booty rising out of the water.
We clearly know
around.
so much about Godzilla.
Godzilla does have a thick booty.
He does. That's true. That's canon, I think.
That's canon.
Yeah. Steph, what do you know about Godzilla?
He's a monster.
Yeah.
With a heart of gold.
Yeah.
He's just, doing the work that no one else can do to save the world from other big-bootied monsters.
Yeah, so you've never seen a Godzilla
I've never seen a Godzilla movie in my life.
Out of this.
No, I played a video game when I was younger in the 80s. That was a Godzilla video game. I used to like to play as Mothra.
Ooh, fun.
She was a real cool bad guy.
Yeah.
So nothing. I know nothing. I know there's a Godzilla. I know that there's sometimes like a Mecha Godzilla. I've heard a bit through the years, but I know nothing.
Yeah.
Kaya, what about you? What do you know?
I have another confession to make. I too have never seen a Godzilla movie.
Whoa!
Godzilla is just one of those things that has always just existed in the background of life to me.
It's like
where
Harryhausen.
It's
like
just
that vibe.
Yeah, or like King Kong. Like we all know these things exist.
Yeah.
I've never seen. I guess I did see the Peter Jackson King Kong, but prior to that, it was like, yeah, King Kong. I know him. He's the big monkey. Godzilla's
He's the big boy.
lizard.
Climbs a building.
Yeah.
Big boy walks out of the water.
It wasn't until recently when I watched the Oscars and the Godzilla team won, and the level of enthusiasm that they had with all of their little like Godzilla action figures, where I was like, maybe I should watch a Godzilla movie. And then our friend got really into Godzilla, and I thought I should really rectify this. I've never seen a Godzilla movie.
And then you did nothing.
And then I did nothing to fix
Because
that.
I did nothing either.
But I do really want to see Godzilla -1.
Yes.
Yeah. So I need to fix it. But I also don't know very much about Godzilla.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for this episode.
I'm stoked for this. And on this show, we rarely have had guests return. We've only had one return guest to date, and that was Diana McCullum. So we're stoked to have back someone who knows a lot about Godzilla. Shannon Lahaie has worked for over a decade as an actor and comedian in Toronto. You might have seen her in 32 Short Sketches About Bees, which was a sketch review that earned the Second City Award for Outstanding New Comedy. But you can also see her on shows like Star Trek Discovery and Murdoch Mysteries. Welcome back, friend of the podcast, friend of all of our hearts, Shannon. Hello.
Oh my God, I cannot tell you how excited I am to be here. I'm bursting in my seat. Oh my goodness.
Shannon, we've made a joke recently all together that you are the one of the platonic ideals of this podcast, because you have a new massively deep fandom like every couple of months, and you go all the way in.
My love burns hot.
Yes.
Okay. I get really, it's something that's always been true about me that I've recently really cultivated into a beautiful, fun activity, and I love it. When something sparks my interest, it has my entire attention. I get very obsessed with whether it be a franchise or a show or person. Like I go all in, and I am not satisfied until I have learned every single detail that I can learn. If it catches my attention, you better believe, I wish I had this kind of, if I put this kind of effort into my schooling when I was in university.
You would be an academic.
I would be such an academic. My research skills are amazing when it's not for an essay, for an English class.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you want me to tell you all the deep dives about something I found out about a week ago, I know about it with the level of accuracy of someone who's been following it for years. It's both a sickness and a superpower.
On this show, it is
the superest of powers.
It's all we ever want and need. But this is a little different than last time you were on the show, because last time you were on the show, you were talking about Star Trek, The Next Generation, and that has been a lifelong love. Yeah,
that started when I was a child. It was like a family sort of thing, and it's always sort of been in the fabric of my entire being growing up. It means a lot to me, and it really does. I really do think Star Trek shaped a lot of my like moral fiber as a person.
Yeah.
And this this was, it still was in something that I've always loved, but I've never really known much about it. And I decided to sort of dip my toe just out of general curiosity, and baby.
Yeah, so tell us the origin story, because we know the origin story because we have just group chats full of capital letters and exclamation marks. But how did you start your Godzilla journey?
Yeah, for the listeners at home, props to Kai and Steph. Whenever I get obsessed with stuff, I blow up that group chat, and troopers
we love
you
it.
are.
We love it.
There's a reason we have this show. We genuinely want to know.
They really do. Okay, so I've always loved the horror genre of things, and one of my favorite kind of, I guess, quote unquote scary movie has always been monster movies, big monster movies, disaster movies. Like Cloverfield was something I loved.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, I love stuff like that. There's something about the feat of, I really like film in cinema. I'm an actor. Oh my God, we all do. I'm not special.
What just happened?
Didn't need that.
No, my inner critic just really jumped forward.
Yeah. Our last whole episode was the Oscars, so you're in safe hands here.
But what I really, my favorite thing about any sort of film, especially it's really prominent in horror, is the special effects of it all. I love being able to watch something and be like, how did they do that? I really love it. And monster movies are always so fascinating to me because there's so much that has to fall into place to make it look good. So I've always really loved monster movies. Like Jaws is a staple that I love. Jurassic Park, we'll come back to those. And so I've always enjoyed those, and I've always loved those. And I've seen 1 or 2 Godzilla movies in the past. And it was literally this past Halloween, I was doing a big horror movie fest, as I love to do, and I sort of got into monster movies. I started watching those, and then I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what's so silly? I love monster movies so much, and I have barely seen Godzilla. Why don't I put on Godzilla -1? It's supposed to be fantastic. It just won a bunch of awards last year. Our mutual friend recommended it, and I put it on, and I have never... the spiritual awakening that movie was. I have not looked back. That movie began, if you've never seen a Godzilla, as you both have, I must recommend you start with Godzilla -1, because gorgeous film, number one, phenomenal film. It's a beautiful gateway drug to the Godzilla world. And then the more you delve into Godzilla, the more you understand what a love letter it is to the franchise as a whole. It's beautiful, but it's also a stunning film. Anyway, so that's how it started. And I decided that was good. I would like to watch the first ever Godzilla. That'd be fun.
That's a natural first step.
Natural
or second
first
step.
Well, it literally was like, I watched that, and then I thought I'd watch the original. And then the original, again, the special effect, it was so stunning. And I when you see all the parallels and what it is, I was like, oh my God, this movie is gorgeous. And it came out in 1954, and there's so much about it that even watching it now, the special effects are so incredibly impressive, and the story is really beautiful. And then I started reading into why did Godzilla get made? And then that led me into how many Godzilla movies are there? And then it went into, I bet I could watch all of those.
And then once that challenge is issued, once that glove is thrown down, you gotta do it.
I'm really bad for I'm a stubborn person. So once I say I want to do something, even I've had many people in my life where I've done similar things where I'm like, I'm going to do this. And people are like, that's ridiculous. And I'll be like, I'll show you.
I'll show you all.
I'll show you all. You think that's ridiculous? I'm going to do it. And so I watched the original one, and I went, I think I should watch all of them. And then once that idea entered my brain, it was over.
There was no getting rid of it.
It was absolutely over.
It was a giant kaiju in your own mind.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I sat down immediately. I made a list. I can show you guys the list of all the movies. I researched it so deeply. I mapped it all out, and here we are.
Did you watch it in chronological order of release date once you went back?
No. This is an interesting decision I made. I don't know if I recommend it. I enjoyed the discovery of this. I personally decided what would keep it fun for me, because I sometimes get caught in a slog of, I have to do that. I have to do that.
I must do this the right way.
Mm-hmm.
What I decided to do was I had a list of all of them, and then I would use various methods. Either I would roll a D20, or I'd ask ChatGPT, or I would look at which is the shortest depending on how much time I had, and I watched them in complete random order I would watch one from like the 1960s, and the next day I'd watch one from 1990s, and then I would watch one from like one of the recent ones. I just didn't stick to any formula, and I just allowed myself to let the moment take me. And sometimes, and that was really cool because it kept it all fresh for me, and I was able to see really stark contrasts. But there were also times where I was like, what is going on? And then I would then later watch what was a prequel and be like, oh, that movie makes way more sense now. So I think it both gave me such a unique perspective on the franchise, and it also, in some cases, I think there were movies that I rated in my mind lower because I was like, this was a huge plot hole, and then later had to go back and re-rate it because then when I saw what the plot hole was explained in a previous movie, it was like, oh my god, actually that was genius. So I guess if I were to recommend, I guess the way to do it is to watch them in chronological order, and a part of me thinks maybe I will go back now and watch them in chronological order.
Of course.
Well, tell us a bit about that first Godzilla, because what was he designed to represent? He's so much more than a big monster.
So truly, the thing I can't stress enough, because I think what Godzilla has become is so far away from what Godzilla started as, and really what Godzilla started as is actually really, really tragic, really, really beautiful, and really heartbreaking allegory that I don't think any of us today could truly fully appreciate. There is something about when the people in 1954, when Godzilla first came out, there is an experience that is so unique to them in that moment, in that time period, that I don't think we can ever fully appreciate. So Godzilla, the original Godzilla was made by, the concept was brought up by, I'm forgetting the creator's name, his last name's Tanaka, and he approached Ishiro Honda and another person, and they co-wrote this piece. And so 1954, we're in a post-war Japan, after Hiroshima and a bunch of nuclear testing and the U.S. occupation of Japan. And Japan had been through so much. And because of the U.S. occupation after the bomb, there was a real censorship of what the people were allowed to discuss and talk about. And so the actual horrors of what Hiroshima did to people, and you know, there's maybe a lot of people who are history buffs. If you know nothing about what happened, it's very heavy subject matter, but I really would recommend looking into it. It's horrific, but I think we all, as human beings, should really understand what it means to use nuclear weapons, because when it's horrifying. I've read stuff that it haunts me, but I think it's important we know about it.
It's one of those things that should haunt you.
It should. It absolutely should haunt you. There's podcasts I can recommend if people want to reach out after. It's really beyond vile and grotesque what happened. And there's obviously we could go on and on about the political impact of before and after, but it's not about that. It's about the fact that then the people who experienced it, the rest of Japan didn't fully understand what it meant. Like, they hear a bomb drop, they have an idea in their head, but there was such a limitation on discussion about it. That,
really?
Oh, yeah. So other areas of Japan really had no idea what really the impact was, what the fallout of that was.
The literal fallout.
The literal fallout. And it was because of the U.S. occupation keeping the censorship on it. So there's a catharsis to creating Godzilla it represents... so it's the summary is it's a giant monster, triggers fears of nuclear holocaust in a post-war Japan. And the allegory is Godzilla is supposed to be a representation of what mankind can create of their own horrors. Mankind created the nuclear bomb. Mankind created Godzilla. Godzilla is a prehistoric dinosaur creature that is fossilized at the bottom of the ocean, and because of bombs and nuclear testing, it infuses these fossils, which creates Godzilla, this indestructible, nuclear-powered, radiated monster that then wreaks havoc on a post-war Japan and puts them through essentially a nuclear holocaust. And if you watch the movie, there's this long, beautiful scene of these this children's choir singing as you see all the horrors of the fallout after Godzilla just terrorizes Tokyo, and what what that is and the suffering of that. And that was supposed to be a direct allegory for what the suffering was after the bomb. And what I meant before of like, we can't fully appreciate the impact. The audiences at that time watching Godzilla had lived through that. Wow. And so it's horrifying as concept of like giant monster destroys the city. But for those people at that time, they knew what that was, to watch a city be irradiated and destroyed and buildings torn down, and for people to be killed en masse in such a way that it was not just a horror film of a giant monster. It was an allegory and a realization of what Japan had gone through. And it also was a way to depict to greater Japan, this is what we went through as a nation. And it's the idea is that mankind created the bomb, and now nature is going to take revenge on mankind for what they have done. The overall idea of Godzilla, really, the takeaway you're supposed to get is, should we ever use nuclear weapon on anyone?
Yeah.
Is that ever an appropriate response? And that should always be the takeaway. And then we'll talk about this later, but it does deviate from that, especially when they start making U.S. Like, Godzilla is supposed to represent the horror that U.S. brought onto Japan. So there is something very difficult about watching the U.S.-made Godzillas.
Of course.
Because it completely loses what the messaging is. Like, Godzilla is supposed to be U.S. destroying Japan. Like, that's... It's beautiful.
Oh my God.
I really can't. It's a really beautiful film. Never mind monster movie Godzilla. It's so heartbreaking and gorgeous and really well done. A bunch of us went to go see it. They screened it at Hot Docs. I took some friends, and a few after were like, I had no idea it was going to be that. Like, I loved that.
It was like a cheesy, like,
that's what it becomes.
Harryhausen style, like, look at these funny, silly special effects they made.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about Godzilla is it goes through, there's eras of Godzilla, and each era has a much different style, and some try to get back to what it was, some really take it to a different place, and it's allegories for many things, but it starts as that, and it's stunning. I watched all these movies. I watched the 1954 Godzilla during this time period when I'm watching all the other ones. I watched it 3 times because it is so affecting. It's really beautiful. It's beautifully acted, and honestly, the special effects, what a feat considering the time. I could talk about just the first one for this whole hour.
I mean, it's so interesting because you really can't divorce things from when they're made. Like that, you take Godzilla out of context and it becomes silly. But yeah, if you know that history, the weight of it is intense.
Yeah, that's why the Godzilla -1 is such a beautiful reset, because it really does get back to the basics. It goes back to post-war Japan and survivor's guilt and what it means to deal with, like, not just like the physical fallout of war, but like PTSD and there's a character, and our main character survives the war and feels like he shouldn't have lived, and his own inner turmoil of that. And a big thing in Godzilla is, especially in the campier ones, the human story sometimes is just filler. There's many times you watch a Godzilla movie where the humans are having an emotional moment and you're like, yeah, let's get to the monster. Yeah. But a good Godzilla movie is when the monster fights are fantastic, but you're also still waiting with bated breath to get back to the human story of it. And Godzilla -1 is really, it's the best one. It's the one that came out in 2023. It's the first Godzilla movie in 70 years to win an Oscar.
Wow.
It was Toho, which is the entertainment company in Japan. They are the same production company that made the original Godzilla and all the Godzilla movies in Japan up until Godzilla -1. And it really is a reset on the franchise, bringing it back to the basics. And it's really beautiful. If you want to get into Godzilla again, I say Godzilla -1 and then the 1954 Godzilla. There's your starter pack, baby.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I would be so interested to know, because like that's the quintessential idea of a horror movie, specifically a monster movie, is to like personify a fear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or a horror of some kind.
Yeah.
I'd be so interested to see like how that's influenced monster movies over the years.
It's considered there's so much that we don't realize exists because Godzilla exists. I have a list of things to tell you about inspirations.
Oh my God, please.
Tell us.
But it's literally considered one of the best monster movies ever made.
Yeah.
It is the beginning of like the Kaiju franchise. Ishiro Honda, who directed it, went on to create and direct many kaiju movies. It started his kaiju movie career, and everything we know about kaiju starts with Godzilla. Here is a list of people and franchises that directly credit Godzilla for their career. Number 1, Steven Spielberg. He made Jurassic Park completely in an effort to make his own Godzilla.
Wow.
It
worked.
Yeah, a big thick booty monster.
Big thick
Love
booty
it.
monster.
You know, in our Jurassic Park episode, you really go on about the T-Rex's thick booty as well.
It's a thick booty.
Look at that,
booty.
Kaya. There's a little Godzilla figure in front of us right now.
Yes.
Look at that booty. Look at those thighs.
Look at those thunder
concede that
thighs.
Thick thighs save lives.
This actually, I have a lot to say about. You're gonna laugh, but it's real. There's a lot to say about the thick thighs and why. Like there is a reason why he's a thick boy. I just want to do a shout out to Richard Reed. He gave me this. If he's listening.
Aw, hi Richard.
Hi. Also Steven Spielberg, it was the same about Jaws. He wanted Jaws to be Godzilla-esque. Here is a fun little rotate on that. Godzilla -1 wanted to create a Jaws-esque feeling to it. So it all circles back around.
That's
Isn't that
amazing.
fantastic?
All art is just a conversation with other art.
These directors have said that Ishiro Honda specifically, but also Godzilla as a franchise, completely influenced their career. John Carpenter, Quentin Tarantino, Guillermo del Toro, Tim Burton, Martin Scorsese. Tarantino said that Ishiro Honda was his favorite ever sci-fi director. John Carpenter called Ishiro Honda his cinematic god.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and Martin Scorsese says that Godzilla changed his life. Tim Burton, everything we know about like practical effects and special effects in monster movies all are created and broken down into Godzilla movies. And we have franchises that we love, like Pokemon and Power Rangers. And I mean, there's so many I can mention. If we didn't have Godzilla, Pokemon is literally just Godzilla.
Yeah, it's giant monsters, but now it's a pocket monster.
Pocket monsters.
Teeny tiny. Yeah.
Okay.
Charizard is based off Godzilla. Anyway, let's keep going.
Thick booty.
Thick booty. On that note, can we talk about the special effects of it? Because it's obviously so influential, and I believe it won a lot of awards back in the day.
Huge.
How did they make that original Godzilla? Why was it such a big deal?
So they put so much love and care into the creature. So, and this, I swear, it's connected. So let's talk about his thick boy.
Yes, this is what I'm here for.
So I'm blanking. I should have written his name down. I'm sure I have it somewhere. But the man who played Godzilla in the Godzilla suit for, the first however many movies, I think he played him into like the 60s or something.
Really?
He worked in kabuki theater and he worked in sumo wrestling.
Cool.
And so the movement of Godzilla is based off sumo wrestlers. And so they hired a lot of kabuki theater actors, sumo wrestlers, to play Godzilla in the various films. And they've even said, for most of us, there's only so many avenues you have Nakajima. Yes. He's the one that said this, that you only have so many avenues in a career like that you can go to, and it can be very limiting and that Godzilla gave him a life and a career and an opportunity that didn't exist at all anywhere else.
Wow.
It's deliberate that Godzilla is so thick and heavy and moves the way he does. They very calculated movements because they believed that the weight and the gravitas and the power of a slow-moving monster, it creates more of this sense of dread. If Godzilla moves too fast, you lose the gravitas of him, which is why the 1998 Godzilla is a terrible movie. Anyway.
Is he a speedy Godzilla?
He's too speedy. He's
Fast-moving Godzilla.
He's too speedy. They made him too much like a T-Rex. He's not even Godzilla. The franchise doesn't even recognize him as Godzilla. He's a separate entity all on its own.
We're too busy talking about fast zombies versus slow zombies. We should be talking about fast Godzillas versus slow Godzillas.
Yes. So the thing is, Ishiro Honda directed the actors and everything outside that. There was a separate set. It was a closed set of miniatures made with the different actors playing the kaiju with a separate director. Those were all shot separately. They used it was out of the necessity of money, but the amount of practical effects that they used, which I think the best Godzilla movies are the ones that use the practical effects, miniatures, models, things that are so tactile. it's one just like so pleasing. I personally love miniatures.
Yeah.
They're very, very pleasing, but it creates more of this sense of urgency, and like they really had to get the shots right, because once you destroy that building's
It's gone.
destroyed.
Yeah.
It took it was so much choreography, there's so much work, there's so much pyrotechnics, and everything was so specifically had to be mathematically perfect because they only really got one shot at it. And same with making the suits. Everything was made and done in a necessity of saving money, and as a result, you got these like really beautiful and really scientific approaches to special effects that weren't being done, that then became the blueprint for special effect work after that, because it was so precisely done. It's stunning. Really, really stunning.
It should be noted that in the 50s, they would have been filming this on physical film,
Yep.
which
Yep.
I think sometimes we forget the differences between that and digital. And that
Literally,
digital,
it costs you money.
It literally costs
Every
you money
second you
per
roll it.
foot.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
second you roll, you can't just like, let's shoot it again, because
Yep.
that on its own, just the film itself.
There was so much rehearsal and choreography, and that's why it also is noted, like, these were, again, professional kabuki theater and sumo. These were disciplined athletes in these costumes.
Because kabuki theater is extremely physical, right?
Extremely physical, and every movement. I went to theater school, and you study all stuff. We did a section on kabuki theater, and we had to try and learn to do the movements. The amount, it's exhausting, the exertion, and every step, like millimeter of a movement is so precisely thought out, and it matters. Like there's no skirting it or fudging it. Like every single movement has a meaning and a matter, and it has to be perfectly choreographed. And it's really, if you don't know anything about kabuki theater, I really, really, really recommend. It's gorgeous.
Extremely cool.
Yeah.
And the reason that stage managers wear black is because of kabuki theater.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they and it's also the reason ninjas wear black. It's based on the like stage managers and the people who are in the background of kabuki theater, because kabuki theater is black on the background, so all the characters stand out in the front. So the idea of dressing people in all black so they can disappear and create effects is from kabuki theater.
Theater is a beautiful source and a well of our world. Everything. Go support live theater. Go see live theater. Your life will change.
Yeah, and just to add to that really briefly, the reason ninjas are in all black is because in one particular play, one of the background people that you weren't supposed to see came out of nowhere and killed someone.
Oh.
And people were like, oh shit, that's not supposed to happen!
That's so cool.
Anyway, kabuki theater, super sick.
So sick. So
Sick, sick,
Yeah,
sick.
shout out to Steph Raposo for telling me that.
Sick. So this might be a weird question, but does Godzilla have a personality?
Godzilla has many personalities. So Godzilla has existed for 70 years and is like one of the longest running monster franchises. And so we categorize Godzilla movies based on eras.
Yeah.
The eras are based on the Japanese imperial eras.
Okay.
And I mean, that's how long it's existed. It's gone through many imperial eras of Japan.
Wow.
And they all sort of shift, and it does deal with like the tone of like what was going on in Japan at the time, or the director who's at the helm. And so Godzilla goes through many iterations. There is original bare bones Godzilla, indestructible force of nature, who is an animal. That's the other thing too, is Godzilla is originally seen as just an animal. It's not that he's this evil being set on destroying the world because of his own nefarious. It is an animal that has been let loose because of mankind's carelessness, and now mankind has to watch this creature just do what it needs to do, which is in a lot of cases it's seeking out its power source, which is nuclear energy. So it's usually going through cities trying to get to the power sources.
Yeah.
And that's the original sort of idea of Godzilla. Then we get into like the 60s, 70s Godzilla, where they make him into this like literally in one movie they call him like, he is my Superman. Like there is a lot of allegories in the 60s, 70s for the different kaiju that come in, the different monsters. If anyone who doesn't know, kaiju is monster in Japanese. That come in and wreak havoc on the world. Like there's like this sludge monster because of all the pollution, or there's a monster because of climate change. Like there's still those allegories, but now they're these kaijus, and humankind calls upon Godzilla, and Godzilla sort of comes in, and they have these big fights, and then saves the day, thumbs up, off back into the ocean as everyone waves goodbye, Godzilla.
Kind of Terminator energy, where like the first one you're like, you're the bad guy, and the second one it's like, well, OG bad guys here to help us, I guess, against worse bad guys.
Because everybody loves it so much that we've forgotten that it was sort of supposed to be a villain, and now we
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Whoops!
Like that's our buddy now.
It's because there is there was a genuine sympathy in the original Godzilla for Godzilla, because it was
Not its fault.
a creature. So it was less about like, oh, this evil monster. It was more about like this creature that exists against its own will in the way that it does. So there was a lot of sympathy for like he was just as affected by the hydrogen bomb as everyone else was. So there's that. There's also right before the original Godzilla came out, there was this famous incident of the U.S. was doing bomb testings around Japan, and there was a boat, a fish. I forget the name of the boat. It's called an incident like day something, but a fisherman that were just fishing that didn't know there was testing going on. That got caught in it. So there's a lot of allegories to fishing boats and people on fishing boats being affected by radiation. And so that was also really in the class consciousness when it was right before, and they added in last minute to the movie a scene of a fishing boat getting caught up in a wake of destruction of Godzilla. And it was supposed to be an homage to those people. So there was a lot of like, we are all victims to this horrible thing. And so there was sympathy to Godzilla. So that slowly transformed into Godzilla is hero. And then there's a reset in the 80s and 90s of Godzilla back to force of destruction in nature. And that is a more consistent sort of serial series of movies it features a lot of the same actors and characters that go throughout and evolve, where it's still like a reverence for Godzilla, but like the same reverence you'd have for like if you were with a wild bear, where you're like, okay, we got to respect that this animal is just doing what it needs to do. Stay out of its way. Maybe we, like in the 60s and 70s, it's we call on Godzilla, come save us. In the 80s and 90s, it's we got to lure Godzilla to where this guy is, and then hopefully they fight. And then there's into the sort of the 90s, 2000s, where it's sort of that's more episodic, and each movie kind of reboots. And sometimes Godzilla is flat out just like, I'm here to just be a shit. And
Just punk Godzilla.
yeah, he really just shows up, and he is more sinisterly motivated. Like he's just there to be like, you've made Godzilla angry, and now Godzilla's going to wreak havoc on you. So he really does have a constant evolution. Godzilla -1 reset it back to creature, unstoppable force. Not necessarily evil, but like not a hero. Like there's basically either Godzilla is the main villain or Godzilla is the only thing that can help you stop the main villain. Those are the two basic categories of Godzilla movies.
Right.
Yeah.
But the sort of origin is it's not malicious. It's just science unleashed.
There's a whole sub story in the first movie where it's there's a scientist who does not believe we should destroy Godzilla, that we should study Godzilla, and that we should.
Is his name Hammond by any chance?
I 100% believe that Hammond was based on this character.
Yeah, no, probably.
Yeah.
Very likely.
Yeah.
How do the American versions differ from the Japanese versions? Obviously, we've talked a bit about like the intent and spirit behind it, but as a viewer watching it, how do you find them different?
Yeah, stylistically.
Stylistically, I mean, the American ones really, really, really heavily lean on CGI. I think you lose a lot of the beauty of it. I think there's a time and place for CGI, but like it's more about the spectacle of like big monster roar than it is about like why is he here though? Like I feel
why does he roar?
Why does he roar? Why is he here? And it's sort of like it's less impactful that it's like, oh no, he's unleashed in New York, and it's like,
yeah. So he goes through the ocean and then shows up in New York. Like, what's up?
Depending on like again, they sort of reinvent origin stories of Godzilla. Like there's some Godzillas that completely disregard any Godzilla the movie that came before it, and so some are just like, oh no, Godzilla originated in the harbor of
brand new.
Yeah, they're more God bless America. They're more
which is shocking for Godzilla.
Yeah, you don't say.
It's not yours.
Yeah, and it is very much like our hero, our king. Like I find them. This is just look. I'm editorializing. I personally find them a lot more self-aggrandizing, and there's a heart to them that's gone. Not to say they're not fun, but they're more of a miss than a hit. And not that this is incorrect. I mean, there's a lot of Godzilla and Kong movies now, and Godzilla also, pay your dues. Godzilla came out in the 50s. King Kong came out in the 30s.
Yeah.
So they were, Tanaka was very inspired by King Kong. King Kong is a reason why we have Godzilla. Absolutely.
It's quite literally the very first
America
monster
Godzilla.
ever put on screen.
Fun fact, both the Godzilla, King Kong versus Godzilla is the third ever Godzilla movie and the third ever King Kong movie.
Aw,
Whoa.
that's nice.
Fun.
So there is, Japan did love King Kong and wanted to make their version of King Kong. There is that. That's why Godzilla is Japanese name is GOJIRA, which is gorilla whale, because they wanted the gorilla and as big as a whale.
Okay. I'm like, is it because he comes out of the what?
Yeah, maybe it's
Yeah,
that too.
maybe a little bit. Yeah.
But so giant as a whale, but gorilla, because they are very inspired by King Kong. But in there's in the American ones, there is a lot of like Godzilla, big dumb baby, King Kong, genius boy, and it's I don't know.
This one's ours, so therefore it's better.
Yeah.
I find them less emotionally affecting. I find they lose sight of never mind all the allegories about Japan and the bomb. Just in general, that Godzilla is supposed to be a force of nature, and we're supposed to there's a full on. The messaging of Godzilla is nuclear war is bad. But in the American ones, it's, Godzilla's asleep. We need to regenerate him. Let's drop a bomb on him. And it's like, no, you're not supposed to use...
Literally the whole point of this.
Yeah. Listen, they're not to say they're not fun. There's fun action in them, but just they're more, to me, the American ones are more like fun candy and popcorn than the deep underbelly of allegories that the Japanese ones are.
It's like blockbuster cinema. It's meant to be like big bangs, big noises.
Yeah, which is how I think a lot of people are exposed to it.
Yeah.
And why they think it's sort of like silly.
And same. The first, I'd seen one Godzilla movie when I was a kid. I don't even remember which one it is. And it was one of the campy ones. And then the one I saw in cinema was the Bryan Cranston 2014.
Yep.
And I remember being like, okay, Godzilla.
Bryan Cranston's in Godzilla?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
There's a whole movie.
It's one of the American ones.
It's a 2014, sort of kicks off the now MonsterVerse that we're in. And I remember being really excited because I loved monster movies. And I was like, finally, I have a lot of gripes with it. But because they don't center Godzilla the way that they should. And I think that's a huge mistake. And that's one of the first ones I saw. And I remember being like, I guess Godzilla's enough for me. But that's not true.
Oh.
That being said, if you know a lot about Godzilla, then 2019 Godzilla King of the Monsters, America got the notes and went back and redid it. And
really?
That one's fun. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's a revolving door of Easter eggs from the whole Japanese.
Oh.
They fixed. That one's fun. That, I think, is the only American one I like.
Well, It sounds like the people who made it love Godzilla, and they were paying they were giving it reverence. Like they loved the source material and therefore wanted to make something beautiful with it.
Yeah. They do a good job.
And there's something to be said about like national identity to some point. Like it's kind of like I can't imagine an American Bond. And like I know American directors have made them, but like it's such a British thing.
It's so British.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want to see an American Bond.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's part
Not
of
everything has
who
to be
he is.
American.
Yeah.
Not
Not
everything.
everything. Not
What
everything.
timely. Anyway,
I could go off on that.
yeah. Let's not.
Let's not. Okay, the score, the music of Godzilla is iconic. Tell us a bit. Is it meant to represent anything? Like what's behind it?
So, and this is something I would love myself to know more about, but in general, the kaiju, a huge, not just in Godzilla, kaiju movies in general, a huge factor of them is all kaijus have songs. So,
What?
Oh, yeah. Monsters all have their own songs. So there's Godzilla, first of all, the Godzilla, which has been, I forget what song samples it, but there's dun, 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 dun. Anyway, that's the song.
You know the one.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But the Godzilla suite that shows up in the 1954, that was not used in any of the American ones until the 2019. Like 2019 Godzilla really went, okay, fine. But it's so good and it's so affecting and it really is beautiful. My favorite kaiju song is Mothra's. Mothra has the best kaiju song. Also, Mothra never villain.
Really?
Mothra is Mother Earth. She is Mother. We love Mothra. Whenever Mothra is fighting Godzilla, it's because Godzilla's the villain and we must have Mothra save us.
I
did not
knew I
know
loved her
this.
for a reason.
Yeah, she is
Good work,
Mother.
Steph.
We love Mothra, people. We love Mothra.
We love
Oh my God,
Mothra.
we call
love
her
Mothra.
Mother.
She's got two tiny twin psychic ladies that are her guardian. Mothra. Mothra saves the day many a times. Mothra has to help Godzilla when either Mothra is fighting alongside Godzilla or is saving humankind from the wrath of Godzilla.
I feel changed. I truly thought Mothra was one of the bad guys.
I thought Mothra was a baddie.
No,
Wow.
Mothra's our baby. Mothra is our mommy. We love
Okay.
her. She is protector of humankind. The only
Thank
time
you,
Mothra will be mad at humankind when they take advantage of Mother Nature and hurt Mother Nature, and then even then will give mankind a warning like, "Hey, knock it off, or I'm going to come put you set you straight."
I'm going to fly right into your lights and I'll show you.
And even then gives mankind so much. Mothra's the best song. I love Mothra's song. But yeah, that's a big thing. But it's even outside of Godzilla, there are a lot of kaiju movies, and there's usually a song. There's usually a musical break where there's a beautiful song sung. There's one. I think it's versus Hedorah.
There's a
great
they stop
song.
and sing in the middle of the.
There's a whole musical number. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's usually like a pop song or an idol song breakout moment. Like it'd be like, oh, we have to summon them, and then they sing this like long song, and it's like cut with like fades, sweeps into each other, and it's just like you're just watching a little music video happen.
What?
Who has done me the disservice of never telling me any of this for my entire life?
I mean, to be fair, Shannon's been trying.
Shannon's been trying. Do you have a personal favorite Godzilla? Obviously, Godzilla -1 is incredible, but is there one that you watch and you're like, shout out to this one?
I have a very precise answer for you here.
Yes.
Okay.
I knew you would.
So, I think that the best Godzilla movies, I'm not going to say anything revolutionary. I have seen what are considered the top 3 Godzillas, completely agree. The original one, Godzilla -1, and the 2016 Shin Godzilla, which is created and directed by Hideaki Anno, who is, if you love anime, Neon Genesis Evangelion. I love that anime.
Oh.
It's one of my favorite animes of all time.
I've heard great things.
It's so good.
Yeah.
That also heavily influenced by Godzilla.
Well, yeah,
It's
giant mechas.
mechs
Yeah.
and and mecha is all influenced. Like, thank you, Godzilla. I think his work is stunning and beautiful, and I purposefully left Shin Godzilla to be the last one I watched.
Okay.
Because I was so excited, and it moves at a breakneck pace. Good luck finding it. Good luck finding it. I had to borrow it from someone. You can't get a hold of it in North America, and even if you get it from Japan, it's Japanese and doesn't have subtitles. It's
Fascinating.
it's amazing. It's so great. I loved it. But because those are the already agreed upon best ones, I have a couple that were, for me, surprise hits.
Okay.
One I loved, I really, really loved. It's from the 70s. It's called Ebirah, 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 Horror of the Deep. And it is a giant sea creature, which is just a huge lobster.
Fantastic already.
It's off an island where a series of nefarious scientists are trying to control the climate, which is causing catastrophic things upon nature. And so Godzilla has to go and fight. And there's a huge underwater fight between Godzilla and a giant lobster. That movie, one of my favorites, one of my absolute favorites. I really recommend it. It's also very funny, very campy, but it is one of the ones where it's like the fights are amazing, but you're also thinking like, okay, let's get back to the humans. I got to see how this is all going to, like, it really is great.
Yeah.
And then one that was a huge surprise, and it's 80 minutes long. It's called All Monsters Attack. Godzilla doesn't exist in the real world in this one. It is all through the mind of this little boy, and Godzilla and all the monsters live on Monster Island, and they're like his own personal gods. And so he's going through stuff like dealing with bullies, and then he's thinking like, what would Godzilla do? And I remember reading it being like, there's some where I went to go put them on, and I was like, all right, let's see what this is.
This is going to be a slog.
Yeah, it was a delight. It's very sweet. It is more on like kiddish side. Still very exciting, and like the kid is going through stuff like these bullying, and then there's these like there's the whole Home Alone-esque moment in it, and it's him thinking in his mind what would Godzilla do, and then enacting that, and it's quite delightful. And I was very, very, very. I went into watching that one being like, I'm gonna hate this.
Oh,
I think it's quite a delight.
Isn't that such a treat when that happens, when you don't expect to like something and it surprises you?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So I would say those two really stand out to me as, apart from the quintessential agreed upon, yes, oh my God, these are amazing Godzilla movies. Those ones really surprised me, and I have such a fondness for them.
Aw, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I've made what I realize is a strange mini game for this episode.
Can't wait.
So obviously we've talked about a lot of the different kaiju that Godzilla goes up against. Worlds full of giant monsters. So I'm going to name some of them, and I want you to give us the 3-word dating profile for them.
Can't wait.
Before we get started on this, between this and the thick booty, Steph, I'm beginning to have questions about your feelings about kaijus.
I like a big butt. You know this.
Okay, well.
Okay.
Some great kaiju.
Okay, we're going to start easy. We're going to start with just Godzilla.
Thick kitty baby boy.
Okay. King Kong.
Drunk clobbering confused.
Mecha Godzilla.
Tortured.
Tortured.
Automatically, I think at least 2 of us would swipe right on that one. Be like,
Yeah.
tortured, I'm in.
I can fix
I can
him.
fix him.
Yeah. It's a tortured, divided, complicated.
Ooh, okay.
Baby Godzilla.
Which one?
Oh, there's multiple.
That's really.
There's Minilla.
Yeah, that's
baby-
pronounced Minya.
Minya.
Garbage creature.
That's the one you hated.
hate Minya.
Okay, what do you hate about Minya? I have to know.
Annoying as hell. I
Oh,
found Minya so annoying. Apparently, there's a divide. Listen, if you're listening and you disagree, I'm so sorry, but no. But there is Godzilla Jr. Oh, cute little baby little guy. Love him.
Okay.
I made a little sticker of him for my phone.
Oh, that's cute. I love that.
Godzillasaurus.
Yeah, I have questions about that one.
Yeah, Godzillasaurus. I don't fully remember. I'm going to be honest.
Right.
Because I was going through my notes and I remember also seeing stuff about Godzillasaurus, and what I wrote down was like big burly buff man, and I was like, all right.
Okay.
But I don't fully remember. Listen, I watched 37 of these in 2 months. Some of them blur together.
Yeah,
Okay.
that tracks.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to go Mothra.
Mother, queen, diva.
Love. I
Yes.
love.
Yes. Rodan.
Rodan, scrappy. I honestly, Lenny from The Simpsons.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I want to ask Mechagodzilla.
We said, yeah, we
Oh, we
did.
said that
yeah,
one.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought you wanted me to
tortured.
elaborate because
Oh,
I got
no,
a lot.
no.
There is more to say about Mechagodzilla.
Sorry, I misread that. Mecha King Ghidorah. That's what I meant to say.
Mecha King Ghidorah is zombie space king reanimated. I guess I already said zombie. Just a vicious bully.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Because you mentioned this also, Ibira.
Honestly, I love Bira. Bira is
What would make you swipe right if you saw an Ibira's profile?
seaside. Has his own island.
He's a rich lobster.
Hates boats.
Hates boats.
Hates boats.
Okay.
So funny.
Jet Jaguar.
I have so much to say about Jet Jaguar. There's a whole song for Jet Jaguar that's amazing.
Just judging by the look of it, so he's like mecha, like he looks like
He is a man-made robot that miraculously somehow is able to grow to giant size. Power Rangers, 100%.
Yes.
He's from the movie Godzilla versus Megalon. 100% the people who invented Power Rangers just went into the pitch office and played that movie and went that.
More of that.
More of that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And he's like, he's hero. It's honestly Godzilla versus Megalon. Not a great movie in terms of plot, but I sits in my heart. I recommend.
Megalon. What's his dating profile?
Megalon, gross, annoying, fucking loser.
Monster X.
Monster X is Ghidorah.
They're the same.
Yeah.
Oh. So there's King Ghidorah, Mecha King Ghidorah, Kaiser Ghidorah, and Monster X. They're all the same?
So like there's Ghidorah, and then it's like you got to think like Pokemon. Like
Oh,
there's
okay,
different
evolutions.
evolutions, but
Got
also Monster X is sort of what they call Ghidorah before they know what his name is.
Oh, okay.
So they refer to him as Monster
So
X.
it's like when it's the shadow in Pokemon. Like, yes, it's Pokemon. It's that with a question mark. And then...
Sort of that, yeah. It's sort of just like there's this monster, and they're just referring to him as Monster X, and then
Got it.
eventually they're like,
Got
it's
it.
King Ghidorah. He's from space. He's from the aliens, the Zelians, the X aliens. That
Well, aliens come into this at some point.
oh my god, there's so many. There's so much aliens in Godzilla.
Really?
Oh, Godzilla and aliens, huge.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just some of these names are... Destroya.
Destroya is like a buggy. Godzilla vs. Destroya is a really good movie. Buggy, creepy, crawly, slimy, mean to Godzilla Jr.
Boo.
Bully.
Hedorah.
Hedorah, slimy, sludgy,
Ooh.
beautiful music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful music.
Beautiful music.
Titanosaurus.
Titanosaurus.
It feels like Jurassic Park when they get to the later ones. They're like, oh no, we're just going to throw a super Menosaurus Rex.
Unbeatable Scary-saurus.
So Titanosaurus, this is an example I was saying earlier. There's a series of Godzilla movies that sort of ignore the previous Godzilla movies. Titanosaurus is basically just a reinvented Mechagodzilla.
Okay.
So it's like Mechagodzilla, but he's not Mechagodzilla.
Yeah.
We're doing something different.
Yeah,
it's
you
like,
can't
"Oh,
say
it's
he is."
Mechagodzilla.
We don't have the
What are you talking
trademark
about?
for it. We
Yeah.
can't. We're not legally allowed to say
Right.
Godzilla.
Okay, I like this. Just Zilla.
Zilla is fucking garbage. Zilla is the 1998 Matthew Broderick Godzilla. One of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. It is the only Godzilla movie I actively hated. I watched 37 of these, and even when it was like not a movie I particularly was like loved, I was like, man, I'm still happy I watched that. I regretted watching that so hard.
Really?
I hated it. I'm angry. I want my time back. Matthew Broderick owes me money. And the reason his name is Zilla is because the franchise as a collective agrees that's not Godzilla. He's some sort of separate thing.
Really?
He's so hated. There's a movie, Godzilla Final Wars. It's made in it's a Tokyo one, where it's the Zelians and Ghidorah, and the Zelians are unleashing all sorts of kaiju around the world, and Godzilla has to run around and fight them all, and they unleash Zilla on Sydney, and there's a whole scene where Godzilla's just kicking Zilla's ass, and is so cathartic.
Oh my God.
That's very fun.
Godzilla, save yourself the trouble, never watch the 1998 Zilla. And if that's the only one you've watched, I'm so sorry.
Just try again.
That is the worst. I didn't even rate it a star.
Wow.
I could not even bring myself
Just
to
the
it.
most godless of Zillas.
It's awful. I don't
Oh
know
my
what the
God.
hell they were thinking.
I love this energy.
Oh,
Okay, of the ones we've listed, who would you date?
Mothra.
Mothra, mother.
There's one you didn't mention. I just want to mention quick.
There's so many. Like, this
Yeah,
is just a
there's so
small
many.
subset of
Yeah,
them.
you did a very good job trying to research the.
I looked at the pictures and I was like, some of these look like they don't even rate.
There is a kaiju, Baragon. They're in Destroy All Monsters.
Okay.
That is the first and I believe only kaiju that was played by a woman.
Oh, we
neat.
love her.
Yeah.
And canonically, is Mothra also a woman?
Mothra is a woman,
But
yes.
not played by one.
No, but Mothra is more puppet. Mothra is
Got it,
not
okay.
a suit.
Got it.
The
okay.
rest of them are all like people in suits. Mothra is more puppetry and really well done puppetry.
Cool.
Well, because she can't walk too, so that would she
She
flies.
flies.
Oh, that makes
She flies,
sense.
but there's also there's a whole thing where Mothra is like a phoenix. Mothra is hatches from an egg, is a small like sort of caterpillar kind of thing, then becomes Mothra, and usually Mothra will die, quote unquote, but it more so becomes this like dust and always leaves behind an egg.
Fascinating.
For the next Mothra
For
to
the
be
next
born.
Mothra to come. So Mothra is like, you have to consider Mothra like a phoenix.
Yeah, is it always the same Mothra, or is it reborn as like Mothra Junior, but we just call her Mothra?
It's always considered as Mothra.
She's
Okay.
like
it's-
one being.
It's like one being that continuously rebirths itself.
Extremely cool.
amazing. Any other ones you need to make sure that we?
Is there any? One I love. There was a movie I loved. I don't know. Biolante is. I just thought it was. Such
I did
an
have.
interesting...
Yeah, they were on the list. I just skipped them because I was like, I don't know how to pronounce this.
Yeah, it's Biolante. I think that one's so interesting because I think the story of it is quite fascinating. That's another movie that I went into being like, what's this gonna be? And I really enjoyed it. It's like a scientist's daughter dies, and he works in science and DNA animation, and he can't bring himself to lose his daughter, so he puts her DNA and essentially her spirit into like roses, but then plants over time, of course, will wilt and die. And he can't, in an effort to keep his daughter alive, he gets his hands on like a scale of a Godzilla that he extracts the DNA to put into the flower to make it strong, but then accidentally creates this like huge flower monster. And it's really, what a compelling story.
Yeah.
That one's a good one.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
We're about to wrap up the Godzilla
Yes.
part. What do you need to put out into the world? What are your final thoughts that you want to share on Godzilla?
What's your hot take?
Okay, here I go. I think when I went into this, I thought this will be fun. This is going to sound extreme. This project, this journey ended up being way more life-changing than I expected it to be. It really opened me up to the idea of like, just love something for the sake of loving it. I saw so much good film and feats of cinema. I saw things that I probably would have never bothered to see before. And I think the biggest thing I can say is when you watch Godzilla, you have to go into every movie just open to it. You have to meet each movie where it's at. There's some movies that are so cheesy, so campy, and if you go in with this like attitude of like you're above that, you're going to have a bad time. You have to meet each Godzilla movie where it's at, and then you're going to have the time of your life. I had the best time. The amount of times I was watching a Godzilla movie being like, I'm having so much fun, I'm having so much fun, I'm having so much fun. And my hottest take is practical effects blow CGI out of the water
Absolutely.
We love
single
practical effects.
time. Every single time.
Yes.
One of the things I also, as an observer of you going through this, that I think was really cool watching it, a lot of it was on Instagram. And I feel like because you genuinely shared your love of it so openly and honestly, I feel like it allowed, like a lot of people started talking to you about it and like coming out of the woodwork to be like, oh my God, this is so exciting and connecting. And I think that was just something that so, as an observer, to be like, you loved it wholeheartedly, you loved it enthusiastically, you loved it honestly. And people were like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, it gave me a lot of opportunities. I still get people messaging me stuff. If they see a Godzilla meme, they send it to me immediately. Thank you so much for doing that. Please keep doing it. I love it. Godzilla is something I will love forever. I always liked monster movies. I never really knew much about Godzilla, and now my obsession is set for life. I always want to be associated with him. Also, people who have like reached out to me because I'll post about, oh, I watched this one, and people are like, I watched that one when I was like 10 years old, changed my, I love it. And there are a few people who have like reached out to me to be like, I'm starting my own, I'm gonna do that too.
That's huge.
It's so fun, guys. It is such a fun time. It is so much fun. If you have half an inkling, obviously don't be insane like I did and try and do it in, I tried to do it in like 30 days. It was an undertaking. It really, but to be honest, I never got bored. And I rewatched a bunch of them. And again, I was excited every time. I do recommend it. It's a fun time. And there's some that are perfect to watch with friends. Have pals over and throw on King Kong versus Godzilla. And you're going to have such a fun time. It's so fun. It's so fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I really love it. And shout out to Hot Docs, because when they screened the original one, they saw my stories and asked me to post about it and invited me and offered me tickets and invited me to come and watch it. And it was like a dream come true. It meant so much to me. And I hope people always send me Godzilla stuff.
That
I will
is
watch
so
every
lovely.
Godzilla movie that ever comes out from now on.
Oh my God.
He really is the king of the
He's
monsters.
the king of the monsters.
He's the king of the
All
monsters.
hail the king.
All hail the
hail.
king.
Well, at the end of every episode, we'll share our micro fandoms, which we're going to do in just a moment. But before we do, here's some ways you can connect with us. As mentioned, the show is always going to be free. But if you have some money and you're like, please take it, we will. We'll gladly do it. Head on over to patreon.com/The Fandom Show, where you can get episodes early and ad-free. You can submit questions. You can listen to our patron-exclusive podcast, The Fan Club. And it's just a fun way of being part of the community. So head on over there and drop us some money if you want, but truly no pressure. Money's precious. It's hard to come by. hold on to it if you need to. You can also find us on social media at Fandom Show Pod on Instagram and TikTok. We also have a YouTube page where we post. I mean, at this point, you listen to the whole episode, but then you can watch it. You can see this tiny little beautiful Godzilla that Shannon has shared with us in front of us. Or you can go to our website at thefandomshow.com.
If you are just now making us a fandom, and if we are your new Godzilla, then please tell all of your nerdiest fans about us, or your nerdiest friends about us.
Finally, the thick-bootied one we always wanted to be.
Finally. If you're getting excited about us, tell your friends. It means a lot to us. It's the best way to spread the word about any podcast is to talk to the people that you trust and tell them that you love this thing. But also, if you can go on your provider of choice, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anything you use, do a little rate, review, subscribe.
Just a little one.
Just a little one. It can be one sentence. It makes a huge difference because, when people look things up, they want to see that people are listening. And if you are listening, if you can show that, it makes the biggest difference, a kaiju-sized difference to us.
Tie-in.
Tie-in. Because it means more people can find us and more people can maybe discover their next new fandom, which is awesome. We also have merch. You can head over to tpublic.com/stores/thefandom show, and you can snag our faces on your favorite things like shirts, mugs, and more. You can also find us on the From Superheroes Discord, where you can meet other fans or hit us up directly, because we are on there sometimes. And our theme song is by Yusu Kim, and our logo is by John Blair.
And now for our micro fandoms of the week. Shannon, I'm going to start with you, because I know what it is. Because our group chat has been blowing up on this.
We have a fun group chat.
Honestly, our group chat is just joy. Shannon's lost it. Shannon's already lost it. This is exactly what I wanted. Shannon.
The whole morning getting ready was just bombarding them with links and voice notes. I did this thing last year and I'm continuing it this year. Like I said, when I love something, my love for it burns hot and I get very, 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 very obsessive. And so this month it's K-pop, and holy God. Holy God. I knew.
I feel like it's K-pop, but that's not the whole truth of what
That's not the whole truth, but I did try and think very measuredly of like what I would say, because there's so much I want to say about it. I'm being a little precious about it because I've had my heart can't handle someone rolling their eyes about it.
It's too new.
So here's what I'll say. It's K-pop, but I'm going to say if you are a lover of K-pop, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk about it. Specifically, I'm very into Big Bang. And if you want a song, I also am very into G-Dragon. I would recommend the song Home Sweet Home. And that is all I'm prepared to talk about right now. It's my heart. My whole heart is, my love. I've never been this in love with something, I think.
You're starting a journey, and it's amazing to be.
I cried about it the other day. Sat and sobbed about it. I have so much deep emotional feelings about a bunch of people, but I'm just going to stick very cleanly to, please listen to G-Dragon's song Home Sweet Home. It's his newest song. He's releasing an album soon. I've listened to that. I listened to that song 5 times today.
Incredible.
And it's like 2 p.m.
I feel like this is a fandom that's still baking in you.
I know,
like you're
so
still developing it. Not that it needs to be developed more. It's
no.
I
constantly I have caught myself a few times in the past couple weeks being like, it's just the beginning.
Yeah.
It's just the beginning.
I just feel like when you're really new to a fandom, you do have that thing where you're like, don't say bad things about it. I'm too in it, and I can't take it.
I showed someone a song the other day, and they were like, they meant well, but they were giggling at it like, okay, and it hurt a bit. And I was like, okay, I can't show this to you anymore.
Yeah. Whereas then you get to a point with a fandom where you're like, I'm very secure in this, and you can say what you want because I know. But when it's too new,
I'm scared. Like I've had a few people like, tell me who, because I'm in love with a K-pop star, and I don't want to talk about him because I don't want anyone to say anything to me about it. But someone was like, who is it? And I was like, I can't talk about it right now.
It's like a new relationship.
I
don't want to jinx it.
So deeply in love with this man, and he has no idea who I am. I think I can get to him.
Yeah, it's just like I don't want you to meet my parents yet. I'm not ready.
Don't look at it directly.
I'm not ready.
I
need to let it calm down a bit, then I can talk about it more deeply.
We'll see you in a year.
Okay.
We'll talk about it. Steph.
Yeah, so this leads me into my micro fandom of the week, which has been tied to yours, which is obviously I've talked on this podcast a lot about BTS. I love BTS. They're incredible. But having you start your journey has had me going back into like videos that really hyped me up at the beginning. So I'm going to say my micro fandom is BTS again, because I've gotten to just see all those moments that made me fall in love with them and get me so excited. And they're like, this sounds they're my emotional support band. Like they really,
That's a thing. That's a thing. That's
they
a
were
real
with
thing.
me through, you know, I
real
found them
thing.
during the pandemic, thanks to Anne Pornell, and they've taken care of me when things felt dark. And I was like, but they're positive and they're a light in the world. So I'm going to say BTS is my micro fandom.
Wonderful.
Kaya, what K-pop thing is your micro fandom of the week?
I'm gonna change the tone. No, I mean, I'm actually not gonna change the tone because I am this same level of hyped about this thing. But it's the show Severance. I can't. It's so good, guys. It's so
I haven't
good.
watched the new season yet, but I'm very excited. But I'm too down a K-hole, which is what I'm calling Korean. what I'm calling That's what I'm calling Korean culture stuff right now.
Totally what that is. I don't know what else.
There's no other
What
reference.
else does that mean?
But I'm so excited.
Okay, here's the thing. It's been a long time, and obviously the production of it paused because of the strikes. And very awesome that the production of Severance stopped to support workers before the strike even happened. So fucking cool.
Shout out to Ben Stiller, man.
Yeah, so fucking cool. And considering the subject matter, appropriate.
Yes.
But I swear, poor Steph has to watch me go into like a fugue state every time we watch this show, because I genuinely think it's one of the best TV shows I have ever seen in my life, and maybe one of the best shows ever made. And I'm 2 episodes into the first season, but it is so good. It is not just like really beautifully written. The visuals, the cinematography, the art direction, the performances, it's just every single thing about I'm ascending. I'm ascending.
There was a new opening scene yesterday, and Kaya could not handle it.
We have to talk about this off mic because I have a lot of feelings.
Yeah.
That first season, I as soon as I finished, I rewatched it immediately again.
Yeah.
It's the kind of show that makes you wish you were creating it.
100%.
Yeah.
I feel different after watching an episode of this show. I don't know how to describe it, but like it doesn't know I exist, but I think I'm gonna get to it. You know? I am so in love with this thing.
Yeah.
It just feels like it takes over my whole body whenever I watch it. The first season is perfect. You are absolutely right, and people are saying the second season lives up to it, and I'm just on cloud 9 about it. I cannot say enough to describe how much it's making me vibrate.
I love that so much.
Good for us.
Good for us.
Good for us. We're having a nice time.
We're loving things.
Great time. I cannot wait. And I can't wait to introduce you all to my husband when I get to him.
I can't wait. He seems lovely. Shannon, thank you so much for being here. Where can people find you? Anything you want to plug?
I love you both so much. So thank you for having me on this show. I genuinely constantly bombard both Steph and Kaya with my fandom stuff constantly. So to bring me,
love it.
Yeah, listen, I cannot tell you how little people in my life have tolerated I get deeply obsessed. It's overwhelming. So I love you both. Thank you for having me. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's at Shannon_Lahaie, Lahaie, all the vowels. And coming up in March, on March 8th, I'm doing my first ever full solo show as part of Toronto Sketch Fest. I'm both very excited and very nervous, and the wonderful Aurora Brown is directing it. And it's been a dream of mine to do like a one-woman solo style show for literally over a decade, and I would love you to come out and check it out.
Your dreams are coming true.
Yeah. So if you're in Toronto, you absolutely must go check that out.
Absolutely do. And till next time, everyone, love the things you love and tell everyone about them in your group chats through all exclamation marks. Bye.
Rawr.
Nice.
Do all the podcasts do hugs afterwards?
No. The Phantom Show.